Sometimes you have to make a bold move to get someone's attention. And if that makes me the bad guy, then so be it. I'm Samantha. I'm 35. And I was dating this guy Parker for 3 years. 3 whole years of my life invested in someone who treated me like wallpaper. Parker worked in some corporate position that sucked the life out of him daily. He'd come home drained, plop down on the couch, and act like existing in the same space as me was enough effort for one day. The man had zero passion, zero fire. He was the human equivalent of beige paint. Functional, but forgettable. Sure. He wasn't terrible looking, but he had this whole I've given up trying energy that was becoming less attractive by the day. His idea of romance was remembering to say goodbye before work, and I was supposed to be grateful for that bare minimum. I started going to CrossFit because I needed something, anything, to break up the monotony of our relationship. That's where I met Cody. Now Cody was everything Parker had stopped being. Confident, attentive, actually excited to see me walk into a room. He'd comment on my post with fire emojis, always had something flirty to say about my workout gear, and made me feel like I was worth noticing again. Yeah, he had a girlfriend named Andrea, but she was one of those quiet, mousy types who probably bored him to tears. I wasn't trying to wreck anything, I just enjoyed having someone pay attention to me for once. The thing about Parker is he'd gotten comfortable. Too comfortable. We'd been living together for 2 years and he acted like he'd already won some prize just by keeping me around. I'd get my nails done, spending my own money. Mind you, and he wouldn't even notice when I switched from ballet slipper to bubble bath. They're completely different shades, but to him, pink was pink. That kind of obliviousness just proves how checked out he'd become. I wasn't asking for much. Just some acknowledgement that I existed as more than his live-in convenience. But Parker had this annoying habit of treating me like I was being dramatic whenever I tried to express that I needed more from our relationship. You're being too sensitive, he'd say, or it's not that serious. Meanwhile, I'm over here starving for any sign that he still found me interesting, and he's acting like I should be satisfied with his leftover attention. So yeah, maybe I flirted with Cody more than I should have. Maybe I found excuses to need rides when my car was perfectly fine. Maybe I started timing my gym visits to match his schedule. But can you blame me? When someone actually makes you feel desirable again after months of being ignored, of course you're going to lean into that feeling. I even went to Cody and Andrea's engagement party with Parker, and spent the whole night watching how Cody's eyes would find mine across the room. The chemistry was undeniable, and I was tired of pretending it wasn't there. Parker and I had been talking about vacation plans for next summer, but even those conversations felt forced. Like he was just going through the motions because that's what couples do after 3 years. I wanted passion, spontaneity, someone who couldn't wait to show me off. Instead, I got a guy who treated our relationship like a comfortable old sweater, reliable but completely uninspiring. The morning everything changed. I woke up feeling particularly invisible. Parker had already left for work without saying goodbye. Again, I'd tried a new workout routine the day before, posted about it, and gotten tons of engagement from everyone except the one person whose opinion should have mattered most. Cody had left 3 comments and a bunch of flame emojis. My own boyfriend. Nothing. I was frustrated, feeling unappreciated, and honestly just wanted to shake things up. So I posted on Instagram, single and ready to mingle. New beginnings? Free at last. Living my best life. Look, was it dramatic? Maybe, but sometimes you have to create a little chaos to get someone to wake up and fight for you. I figured Parker would see it, panic a little, and finally put some effort into showing me how much I meant to him. What I didn't expect was for him to actually like the post, not comment asking what was wrong, not call me immediately. He literally just liked it like he was agreeing with me. Then he had the audacity to comment, "Congratulations on your new status." I stared at my phone in disbelief. This was not how this was supposed to go. The post started getting tons of engagement. My friends were all yes queen. And about time? In the comments, which felt amazing at first. Finally, people were supporting me and recognizing that I deserved better. But Parker's reaction, or lack thereof, was throwing me completely off balance. I kept checking my phone, waiting for him to call, to text, to do something that showed he cared about potentially losing me. By lunch, I had 67 likes, and my DMs were blowing up with people asking what happened. I was starting to feel a little panicked because this wasn't going according to plan at all. I'd expected Parker to chase me, not congratulate me on being single. What kind of boyfriend does that? I was at my yoga class, trying to center myself and figure out my next move, when my phone started buzzing with notifications. But these weren't the supportive comments I'd been getting all morning. These were panicked messages from my mom, my sister, even some mutual friends. "Samantha, what's happening? Are you okay?" Parker just posted something. I immediately went to his social media, and my stomach dropped. He'd posted a simple status. Saw the relationship update. Glad we're on the same page. Wishing everyone the best in their new journeys. The comments were already pouring in, but these weren't the supportive ones I'd gotten. These were people asking if he was okay, offering to hang out, basically rallying around him like I was the one who'd done something wrong. I tried calling him immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. Then I got a text that made my blood freeze. Saw your relationship status update. Glad you're embracing your truth. Your belongings are packed and in the garage. Code is 1234. Please collect by end of day. Wish you all the best in your single journey. I raced home, my heart pounding, hoping this was all some kind of misunderstanding. But when I pulled into the driveway, I could see boxes stacked neatly in the garage through the window. Everything I owned, carefully packed and labeled. Even my expensive skincare collection. My craft supplies. My collection of succulents that I'd named, but admittedly never watered properly. I tried my key in the front door, but it wouldn't turn. He'd changed the locks. Changed the freaking locks like I was some kind of stranger instead of someone he'd been with for 3 years. I stood there fumbling with the key, feeling completely blindsided by how quickly everything had spiraled out of control. I called my mom and my best friend Melissa in a panic. He kicked me out. I sobbed into the phone. Over a stupid post, he actually kicked me out. They were both shocked. This wasn't the Parker we knew. He'd always been so accommodating, so willing to let things slide. But apparently, publicly announcing I was single was where he drew the line. My mom, Janet, immediately went into protective mode. This is ridiculous. You can't just kick someone out over a social media post. We're coming over. Melissa agreed to meet us there. And I figured having backup would help me talk some sense into Parker. This was clearly just a massive overreaction to what was obviously a cry for attention. When we arrived, Parker was sitting on the porch with a beer, looking completely calm. That should have been my first warning that this wasn't going to go the way I expected. My mom immediately launched into him. This is ridiculous. You're really going to throw away 3 years over a silly post. I'm not throwing away anything, he said, his voice maddeningly level. Samantha announced she's single. I'm just helping her commit to her decision. Melissa jumped in. It was obviously a cry for attention. You should know her by now. I do know her, Parker replied. That's why her stuff is packed. I was doing that thing where you cry but you're also furious, trying to look heartbroken while actually being pissed that my plan had backfired so spectacularly. You liked my post? I accused him. You liked it. That's so petty. I was being supportive of your choice. It wasn't a choice. I stopped myself before saying it was manipulation, because that would have made me look even worse. It was just me being frustrated. My mom gasped like he'd slapped me. How dare you speak to her that way? The same way she dared to publicly humiliate me while I was at work. Parker shot back. I tried switching tactics. Baby, please, I love you. You know, I do. I was just frustrated because you've been so distant lately. Parker actually laughed. Distant. I made you breakfast this morning. We watched a movie together last night. What exactly was distant? You didn't notice my new nails. He looked at my hands with this expression I'd never seen before, like he was seeing me clearly for the first time. They're the same color as last week. No, last week was ballet slipper. This is bubble bath. Even Melissa looked embarrassed at that point, and I realized how ridiculous I sounded. But I was in too deep to back down now. We loaded up the boxes while I kept trying different approaches. I got angry. You'll regret this. I tried bargaining. We can go to couples therapy. I went into denial. This isn't really happening. Then back to anger. You're such a child. Finally, I tried fake acceptance. Fine. I'll stay with someone who actually appreciates me. That last one seemed to catch his attention. Oh, who's that? I got flustered because I didn't actually have a backup plan. Just people, friends. You don't know them. My mom jumped in. She can stay with me, and you'll be hearing from a lawyer about illegal eviction. Parker just shrugged. She's not on the lease. She's been a month-to-month guest. I gave her more notice than required. But sure, call a lawyer? I have screenshots of her declaring herself single. Pretty sure that ends any domestic partnership claims. As we were leaving, I couldn't resist one final shot. Cody from CrossFit would never treat me like this. Parker's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Cody from CrossFit. That explains a lot. I realized I probably said too much, but I was too angry to care. Let him know there were other options. Maybe that would finally wake him up to what he was losing. I ended up going straight to Cody's place with all my stuff loaded in my mom's car. I figured this was the perfect opportunity to finally see where things could go between us. He'd been flirting with me for months. Surely he'd be excited to have me available. But when Cody opened the door and saw me standing there with boxes, his face went through about 5 different emotions. None of them good. Samantha? What's going on? I left Parker, I announced, trying to sound confident and spontaneous. I thought maybe we could finally see what this is between us. That's when a woman appeared behind him, Andrea. His girlfriend, the one I'd somehow convinced myself was just a boring placeholder. Except she wasn't boring at all. She was gorgeous, confident, and looking at me like I'd lost my mind. Who's this? Andrea asked, but not in a threatened way. More like she was genuinely curious about the crazy person on their doorstep. Cody looked mortified. This is Samantha from the gym. Samantha? This is my girlfriend Andrea. We live together. The next few minutes were a blur of embarrassment as I realized that all those flirty comments and lingering looks I'd been reading as serious interest were just Cody being friendly. He'd never had any intention of leaving Andrea for me. I was just the gym girl who'd been throwing herself at him while he was trying to be polite. I ended up at my mom's house that night, crying into a pint of ice cream, while she rubbed my back and told me Parker would come to his senses. But deep down, I was starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, I completely misjudged the situation. The next morning, I woke up to 62 missed calls and a voicemail from an unknown number. It was Cody, and he sounded panicked. Hey, Samantha. Andrea's pretty upset about last night. She's been asking questions about our interactions at the gym, and I had to be honest about some of the things you've said and done. I think it would be better if you found a different gym. Also, she wanted me to tell you that she's known about your crush for months and has been laughing about it with her friends. Just thought you should know. My face burned with humiliation. Not only had I completely misread the situation with Cody, but his girlfriend had been watching me make a fool of myself for months and treating it like entertainment. I decided to delete my original post and try to do some damage control. But the internet never forgets. Screenshots were already circulating among our mutual friends, and the narrative was quickly becoming that I'd had some kind of breakdown and destroyed a perfectly good relationship over nothing. My friends started reaching out, but not with the support I'd expected. Instead, they were confused and concerned. Wait, I thought you were happy with Parker. What happened? Girl, what were you thinking? Even worse. Parker's friends were being supportive of him in a way that made me look even more unstable. They were taking him out, checking on him, basically treating him like the victim in all this. Meanwhile, I was the crazy ex-girlfriend who'd blown up her own relationship for attention. I tried reaching out to Parker multiple times over the next few days, but he wasn't responding. When I finally got him on the phone, his voice was different, colder, more distant than I'd ever heard it. What do you want? Samantha? I want to fix this. I made a mistake. You made a choice. I'm respecting that choice. It wasn't a real choice. I was just trying to get your attention. Well, you got it, and now you have exactly what you asked for. You're single and ready to mingle. The line went dead, and I realized that Parker wasn't going to chase me. He wasn't going to fight for us. He was actually done, and I'd done it to myself. A week later, I was scrolling through social media when I saw something that made my stomach drop. Parker had been tagged in photos at some kind of work event, and he looked good, really good. Like the stress of our relationship had been lifted off his shoulders. He was laughing, talking to people, seeming more relaxed and confident than I'd seen him in months. But what really got to me was seeing how people were responding to him. Coworkers, friends, even people I didn't recognize were commenting about how great he looked, how happy he seemed. It was like everyone could see that he was better off without me. And that realization hit harder than I expected. I found out through mutual friends that Parker had started focusing on himself, working out more, picking up hobbies he'd abandoned, reconnecting with friends he hadn't seen in a while. Everything I'd accused him of not doing, he was suddenly doing, just not with me. Meanwhile, I was living with my mom, unemployed because I'd quit my job in a dramatic gesture that Parker hadn't even noticed, and slowly realizing that maybe I'd been the problem all along, but admitting that felt impossible. So instead, I focused on being angry at him for not fighting harder for us. 3 months after our breakup, I ran into Parker at a coffee shop. He was with a woman I didn't recognize, not in a romantic way, just talking and laughing over their laptops. When he saw me, he nodded politely but didn't come over. The woman looked at me with mild curiosity, then back at Parker, and I realized she probably didn't even know who I was. I'd become irrelevant to his story. That's when it hit me that Parker wasn't coming back. He wasn't going to realize he'd made a mistake. He'd moved on completely, and I was still stuck in the aftermath of my own bad decisions, trying to figure out how everything had gone so wrong so fast. The truth is, I'd gotten exactly what I'd asked for. I was single and ready to mingle, just like I'd announced to the world. The only problem was, I'd never actually wanted to be single. I'd wanted Parker to fight for me, to prove he cared, to show me I mattered. Instead, I'd shown him that I was willing to publicly humiliate him for attention, and he decided he deserved better than that. Looking back now, I can see that Parker wasn't the problem. He wasn't boring or predictable or taking me for granted. He was just stable, reliable, the kind of person who shows love through consistency rather than grand gestures. And I'd thrown that away because I wanted drama, excitement, someone to make me feel like the main character in my own story. But here's the thing. I still don't think I deserve to be thrown out like garbage over one stupid post. Yeah, maybe I handled things poorly, but 3 years should count for something. A real partner would have talked to me, tried to understand what I was going through, worked with me to fix whatever was broken between us. Instead, Parker took the easy way out. He used my moment of weakness as an excuse to end things, and everyone acted like he was some kind of hero for standing up for himself. But what about standing up for us? What about fighting for the relationship we'd built together? I'm doing fine now. By the way, I've got my own place again, a new job, and I've learned to be more careful about what I post online. But sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Parker had just called me instead of liking that post. If he'd asked what was wrong instead of assuming I meant what I said, if he'd fought for us instead of giving up at the first sign of trouble, maybe we'd still be together. Maybe we'd be stronger for having worked through it, or maybe we would have broken up anyway. But at least it would have been a real conversation instead of a social media misunderstanding that spiraled out of control. Either way, I learned something important. Be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. I wanted to be single and ready to mingle, and that's exactly what I got. The problem was, I never really wanted to be single at all.